Good morning, everybody. How you doing? You can grab your seats. I see some of you are getting seats. Good morning. My name is Brent Messenger. I'm a global head of community at a company called Fiverr. You'll hear a little bit more about what my company does later, but I just wanted to welcome you this morning to the Digital Workforce Development Initiative. This is an initiative that's a partnership between three organizations: Fiverr, my company, a company called Udemy, and an organization called Sama School. We've come together we're working with Kansas City to help provide skills and resources for people who are interested in a career in independent work in freelancing. Udemy, you'll learn all about what each piece does, but just sort of a high level. Sama School offers training on how to become a freelancer. Udemy will offer courses to up-level skills or to learn something new that you might be able to do as a freelancer. And then Fiverr is the world's largest marketplace for freelancing. So people go to Fiverr and they set up a gig and they sell a service, and you'll see how that works a little bit later. So it's kind of a nice fit between the three organizations and, of course, the city of Kansas City, who helped us set all this up and sort of with their forward-thinking vision for how this might help the city. So that's why we're here. I'm up here right now just to get this started. I want to run through a little bit of housekeeping for everybody, just so you know how the day is going to work. We're going to kick it off in a minute with Mayor James. I'm really excited to see you this morning. We're going to have a panel at 8:40 on independent work in Kansas City, followed by a break at 9:25. If you need to use the restroom, that'd be a great time to do it. It'll be a 10-minute break. After that, we have Freelancing 101 with Sama School, so a pretty big chunk of their course, a taste of what they offer, and they'll tell you more about that. Followed by 10:30, what is Udemy? 10:35, what is Fiverr? What can it do for you? And then we'll close up around 10:40. Restrooms are right down the hall and to the right. If you parked across the street, you have an hour parking for free. And I think that's about it. Any questions? Great. Well, thanks for coming this morning. It's so exciting to see so many people, especially so early. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Mayor James.
I've already forgotten what time you said it'd be a good time to go to the bathroom. If you need to. So if you can't wait that long, go ahead and go now. I won't take long. Might help relieve some of the stress in the room. I want to say good morning to everybody and welcome you all to the Kansas City launch of Digital Workforce Development Initiative. This is a multi-city program that's designed to support and grow local economies. And I was watching the news over the weekend, and I saw that companies are renting out robots to various companies to replace workers that can't be hired, and they're starting the robots at $15 an hour. Now, I think that's pretty good, considering that we can't get a lot of people paid $15 an hour. So maybe one of the things you'll learn here is how to be a robot. I hope not. We're really proud to be launching DWDI here in Kansas City, and I'd like to thank those of you who worked hard to make this a reality. There's Fiverr, there's Udemy, there's Sama School, and Rick Usher, our own city manager. And of course, the EDC is involved in this as well, which is something it should be involved in. Economic development is their name. DWDI brings the necessary tools for success to freelancers and independent workers, and makes them for a much more diverse workforce and a much more diverse population. From what I understand, 94% of the net job growth over the past decade has been in independent work, and that makes sense. In an economy where so many things are being done in large blocks and large scale, there certainly should be room for the individual with creativity, imagination, innovation, and opportunity to participate in that economy in a way that brings value to the end user as well as value to the freelancer. And it really couldn't come at a better time. Some people call it freelancing, other people call it entrepreneurship, and some people simply call it independent work, but it doesn't matter what you call it. It is an area of work and a workforce that is rapidly growing and hopefully continues to grow rapidly as the economy changes. I think we're going to see more and more need for this, more and more interconnectivity of those who are doing independent work or freelancing, so that there is a better network, so that everyone has opportunities by working together and helping place people in various positions and situations that they really want to be in. This kind of work allows people to take control of their lives. And Lord, don't you know that that's exactly what I crave right now. And here in Kansas City, we want everybody to have access to the best tools and to have the best opportunities, the same opportunities. And I'm very much aware of the fact of the differences between equal and equity. Equal is everybody gets the same bite, whether you're a kid or an adult or a person with one arm or whatever the case may be. Equity is when you get a bite that fits your size and your needs so that you can travel as far as anybody else. And we're always about both equality so that everybody has opportunity, but equity so that everybody has the right opportunity so that they can succeed. And this isn't only a situation that should reward you by playing to your passion and by hopefully putting profit in your business or your pocket. It can also help you to carve out more time to spend with your children, your family, to pursue volunteer work, to engage in your community in some way that makes you feel whole. Because Lord knows, work alone doesn't satisfy the soul. Sometimes you have to do and you want to do other things. And this will maybe provide you with the opportunities to do that while you're still able to make a living and to engage in the type of work for which you're trained and the type of work that you really want to. We expect independent workers to comprise over 40% of this economy by 2020. Nationwide, there's already been a 34% increase in self-employment since 2001. But according to a lot of studies, women, people of color are underrepresented in this population and in independent work. And that's not surprising. That trend follows the trend that this society has moved in for decades, that women and people of color are underrepresented. And this is a way to change that. This is also a way to show the world that is not in freelance, the world of the economy, the world of business, that women and people of color have the talents, the skills, the wherewithal, the resources to succeed and to add value to their companies, because we need to start thinking in terms of diversifying our lives and our companies and our businesses, because ready or not, here it comes. And the more diverse we are and the more we understand diversity, the better off we're all going to be. We have a lot of people here in Kansas City missing out on the opportunities to do fulfilling work and to take part in this economy. Although the unemployment rate is low at 5% for the majority, it's still around 13% for African Americans, 11% for Latinos, and women are lagging behind as well. This is a way to level that out, and to level it out in a way that fits your needs, so that you don't necessarily have to be in a cookie cutter situation. Fortunately, one of the goals of DWDI is to bring freelance success to a more diverse population and level the playing skills across all kinds of independent work. I'm glad to sit here and look out at this audience, because a lot of times when I show up at audiences, one of the things that I ask is to everybody to look around and tell me who's not here and why they're not here and what you're planning to do about it. But the good thing about this audience is everybody is here, and that's a good thing. We have all sorts of people represented in this room today. That's exactly the way it should be, because we have all sorts of people represented in Kansas City. And this room should mirror our city, and thank you for being this way, because it does. So today you're going to hear from some experts in some fields of entrepreneurship and freelance and workforce development and our own startup economy right here in Kansas City. You're also going to take part in DWDI's Freelance 101. That's a course that's designed to equip you with some basic tools necessary to get up and running as a freelance worker. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to ask questions, get opinions, network, and find mentorship. You're Your opportunities, obviously, to go to the bathroom are limited by time. So I strongly encourage you to use your time wisely. But I also encourage you to engage with the people who are here, the people you're going to see on this stage, as well as those others sitting in this room. I learned a long time ago practicing law, and it really took me a moment, but I did learn it, that in my practice, every person in this room could be a client. Not that I wanted you to be, because that would mean something bad had happened to you, but the fact of the matter is that when you recognize that there are a number of people in this room who might at some point in time, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe a year from now, say, I remember you and I know of an opportunity that would be great for you. The networking opportunities are absolutely crucial. Relationships are critical to succeeding in anything, and they're especially critical in succeeding in work situations where you are going to perhaps be relying on referrals or information or tips from somebody else, and where you may be in a position to help somebody else by making referrals or telling somebody about something that's going on. Those are the things that happen when you build relationships with people who are moving in the same direction. It helps the entire group move faster, better, and more productively. So you're going to learn some new skills, you're going to gain some insights, you're going to hear some advice about building your businesses, and you're going to learn about how to succeed right here in Kansas City. Now, some of you may be superstars and take off like a rocket. If you do, I hope that you land back here in Kansas City. We need you here. We need your strength, we need your understanding of diversity, we need your understanding of the work that you're about to do. We need your workforce talents here in this city. We don't have enough of you, and we would like to make sure that anybody who is here stays here and provides and helps this economy. And I bet you're going to have hear a lot about the importance of starting out in this community and networking in order to make sure that everybody has opportunities that they may not even know about. So I don't think that this is the place for you to be shocked. I think this is a place for you to be bold, a place for you to willfully engage with people. Take those business cards out, get those pens ready, get those phones ready, get your database up to speed, find out who's doing what, because those people may be able to do something that you need, or you may be able to do something they need, or you may be able to do something together, all of which will help promote your freelance, your independent work, and your business opportunities. So I hope that you'll learn from everybody, hope that you'll help grow this network, hope that you'll help support this network. I hope that you'll help support the people who put on this opportunity, who are here to provide information and expertise, because they are here to give you something that we don't currently have, and that is the benefit of their knowledge across different sectors and how to get things started. This is an opportunity for everybody to engage, and I hope that you'll take advantage of it. So I want to thank you for coming out today. I want to thank you for listening to me. And I hope that as you move forward in your work endeavors, that you will look back on this day and say, this is where I got information that was valuable and helped me, and I won't forget it, and I will pass on this tip to others who may want to do the same thing. So have a great day, enjoy the panels, enjoy the information, make some new friends, and help build Kansas City's economy with the work that you're doing, and the work that you're going to do. Thanks a lot.
James, that's great. So now we want to start the panel, freelancing in Kansas City. So I'm going to welcome up Amy Jordan Wooden, who's going to be the moderator of the panel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. My name is Amy Jordan Wooden, and I am a freelancer, or a new word I learned, solopreneur. I've been at this since about 2002, when I went out on my own, and what I specialize in is public affairs and crisis communications. So much like a lawyer, I always look at a room and think, somebody in here might mess up. They might need my crisis communications skills. I'd like to call up all of our panelists here. We've got a great number of individuals who are going to hopefully engage in a great dialogue. So would the panelists come up and take a seat, please? I am just going to say a couple of words about each of our panelists and then let them self-introduce. And then we'll kick off with some questions. And I don't know about you guys, I tend to be very casual, so I want to hear from the audience a lot as well. So please don't be shy about raising your hand as we go through the panel. All right, you guys are out of order from what I wrote. I'm gonna freelance this. Stay with me. Right, okay. So from my right to left, your left to right, we start off with Julie Cortez, which, you know, one word, copy diva, right? She's known as the copy diva, and I'm excited to hear from her. She is the founder of the trade organization Freelance Exchange of KC. Right, shout out. Next is Clyde McQueen. And Clyde, I think I got to know you first in 1993, which is aging us both, right? When I worked. Yeah, when I was 12 years old. When I worked for Governor Bill Carney. And here's what I would say about Clyde. You know, he runs a full employment council, but Clyde knows where every federal dollar is in the country. Not joking, like he is a great maker. So thank you for joining us. Next is Sherry Gonzalez-Warren. We are so fortunate to have Sherry at the Mid-America Regional Council. She is a stellar expert when it comes to workforce development. She spearheads the Grad Force KC initiative, which is very important, and works on the human capital part of KC Rising. Next, Dr. Mark Bedell. Again, Kansas City is so fortunate that we were able to lure Dr. Bedell from Baltimore to come here. He is the superintendent of the Kansas City Public School System and is a wonderful and in a very short time, great leader for our community. And finally, we have Dr. Jackie Gill with Metropolitan Community College. Dr. Gill is the president of the Blue River campus and the Business and Tech campus for the community college. So with that, would you each take just a couple of minutes to expand on my freelancing intros?
Again, my name is Julie Cortez. I'm the founder of the Freelance Exchange. I have run my own freelance business for 20 years now. I know I too look like I'm 12 years old, but I'm not. So, I'm a freelance copywriter and proofreader. That means I work in the advertising and marketing realm, and I write all sorts of advertising and marketing materials, brochures, websites, video scripts, etc. After about 5 years of running my own business, I realized there was a super big need here in Kansas City for education. That there were many of us out on our own, knowing our craft, because we had gone to school for writing, design, photography, etc., but none of us had taken business classes at all. So here we were, either by choice or by default, and all of a sudden we're running our own businesses and not knowing what the hell we're doing. Right? So I figured, let's get together, let's figure this out, and especially talking to the creative soul, we're very, very much a different kind of animal, right? So we bring in the experts, we learn from one another, and the Freelance Exchange is now celebrating its 15-year anniversary, and we're just rocking and rolling. We gear ourselves towards anybody who's self-employed in advertising or marketing, up until about 3 people, I believe. So as you go to grow your business, we'll help you along the way with continuing education, mentorship, social activities, networking, you name it, we've got it all. From there, I've kind of launched a speaking career as well as coaching, and I've also developed my own course that I'm now teaching at the Art Institute of Kansas City called Freelancing 101. So if anybody has questions in particular about freelancing, please come see me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Clyde McQueen, I'm president of the Full Employment Council, and so one of the things that I really want to emphasize is that we see about 30 or 40,000 people annually. They come into our offices seeking careers, but most of the people that we place people with are small businesses. They are small independent organizations. One of our best employers right now, a company called Snapper Solutions. It's an international IT company, started off as one woman. And now she has offices all across the entire United States. And no one would have ever thought, quite frankly, that that person would be able to hire people and come in and pay them salaries, $45,000 to $55,000 a year. And they too can also become independent entrepreneurs if they so seek. And one example that I'll just give you, when I first started my career, was back in the 80s, and a big, huge oil refinery had gone down. In fact, the company closed it. And so you had about 1,800 workers who worked in a refinery and made good money, like 60 grand a year. None of them had a high school diploma. So the question that I had as a working professional, how are you going to retrain somebody that makes $60,000 a year, doesn't even have a high school diploma? And I can tell you at that time, cable TV was just starting out in Beaumont, Colorado, Texas. So one of the things that somebody really, other than myself, came up with was, what do we do with these persons? And then they says, hey, we can train them to be independent cable operators. And the other thing that happened was, none of their lives worked. That was a big foray in Texas. Your life did not work when you did. If you did, you were not a man. Your life worked. And so one of the things that happened there was, we trained their wives to be the business managers for it. So out of 1,800 people, about 800 of them became independent cable installers. Their wives were their business managers. And they were able to sustain themselves for the rest of their lives and all their children to college, community college, or whatever. I can tell you that the IT industry is the cable industry of the 80s. Because now, everything that you read about, the connectivity, the automation, and the intuitive insight that entrepreneurs bring to that particular activity. So my only thing is, don't say it's not possible. Look at what it is. Don't say it can't be. It can. And think particularly about how much dynamism is in our community. When everything you read, everything you do, children who are 5 years old can program a computer or a phone. 30 years ago, that was not possible. So I just hope you see the value of that and see the insight that you can do, what you can provide as an entrepreneur in the future.
I'm Sherry Gonzalez Warren. I work with Mid-America Regional Council, as I mentioned. Many people don't know what that is. And so we are an organization, a public entity that actually supports Kansas City predominantly as a metropolitan planning organization, but I'm the Director of Workforce Development. And so as the Director of Workforce Development, what we are often trying to do is sort of look at the trends, look at the opportunities, bring data for decision making, and often at a system level. And so many people maybe are aware of the work that we do and rarely aware of us, which is how we operate. And so I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that we've been doing, but what we're trying to do is make sure that all people get the kind of experiences that are meaningful, that allow them to sort of do things that lead to jobs that both fulfill their passions and their talent. One of the things that you will often hear me say is that talent is universal, opportunity is not. And so making sure that those things that are maybe at the system level, creating barriers, are being addressed as we sort of uncover them. And so that's part of what my role is. I'll also say though, while I have not been 15 years as a freelancer, I do consider myself sort of an entrepreneur. While I'm employed by somebody, there is a whole lot of that mindset that you have to bring. And we start new things constantly that then sort of spin out into the community and engage them with a lot of those who are doing that work. And so I like to be able to hear directly from the ground, where are those things? Are they a rule, are they a regulation, are they a policy that is making it difficult to make these things happen that you're trying to create? And so we support you in those efforts, and we are very grateful for that. Everything that is now a big company started with an idea somewhere, right? And then it took somebody to actually do that and create it, bring it to reality. And so thank you for those efforts that you're doing as well.
Mark Liddell, Superintendent of the Kansas City Public School District. And I've been very fortunate to perhaps be a student at one point throughout my K-12 schooling where technology really didn't become a big deal until about 1982 or so. I think it was when the Macintosh computer came out, and I remember going to the computer lab and playing Oregon Trail and Just, for those of you, you understand, that was just a big deal to us. You know, and then from there, beginning to see the evolution of how technology would begin to really become a huge part of our lives. And now as a superintendent, that is the life that our children live through. And so how do we, in a very intentional way, develop a strategic plan that accounts for the fact that our kids are going to be moving into a world where we don't even know what jobs will exist, and making sure that we're very flexible as a school system with the educators that we hire, how we provide the training that we can easily pivot to meet the demands of these changes in the market. A lot of that really does focus around the technological advancements. And so we have made that a critical component of our strategic plan, even with the training that we provided with our teachers this year, because sometimes, especially veteran teachers, can be terrified of all of the changes that happen with technology. And we have to be fair with our kids, because we want to produce children that will ultimately be able to, that you all will be able to hire one day, because we've developed them on 3 different fronts. That's college, career, and life, having them have the ability to be prepared for the challenges that life will throw at them. And so I look forward to talking a little bit more about specifically some of the things that we're doing, and just the way that we as educators believe that our kids need to be educated. And ultimately, our kids have told us how we need to educate them, and that's what we're doing. We're really responding to what our students want and not what adults want.
Good morning, I'm Jackie Keel, and I'm president of Metropolitan Community College. I'm standing in for our chancellor, Dr. Beatty. And what I would say is, we are here and ready to serve. Listening to the first young lady said there was no education in what she wanted to do, it kind of breaks my heart, because that's what we're here to do. And so at the community college, most people think it's just to get a 2-year degree, but it's to get whatever skill you need at that particular time. And so if you just need a 1-hour class, a 3-hour class, a 4-hour class, and you need the full 2-year degree, we're here for that. Hearing Dr. Bedell saying what they're planning for their students, we need to be poised and ready to receive them. But if we don't get you from the K through 12, we're also ready for those that are sitting into the audience. You're never too old to learn. There's always an opportunity. And one of the things we do very well is we do train and retrain and retrain. In this day and age, most people are going to have to continue to learn throughout their life, because again, the jobs we know today will cease to exist, and so we've got to be prepared. I also know technology is the way, because if we don't have it, which I doubt in Kansas City, we can also get them education through video conferencing and things across the world to make sure people here have access to everything they need in a just-in-time manner. And so I encourage you all to make sure you are accessing all the opportunities here. And remember, your community college is metropolitan, and we're here for you. And we are poised and ready to serve you in any way we can. One of the things I'll mention that we are doing is we have requested to receive a cybersecurity clearance with Homeland Security. So we'll be one of 2 colleges in the state of Missouri that is qualified to teach and train people about cybersecurity, internet activities, and things of that nature. It's one thing to know it and start your business, but we want to make sure you're safe and you can protect all the information. And so we're doing that too for this area and making sure that Kansas stays on the forefront, and we're ready to meet the needs of the workforce.
Thank you, thank you. I can already tell we're going to need a lot more time for this panel. But I have a rule follower, so I have a timer. So, but without further delay, so let's talk about the growing freelance workforce. Like anecdotally, I feel like it's growing. Just for no other reason than I tend to get more phone calls from friends saying, how did you do it? How did you start your business? And that conversation is very much do as I say, not as I did. But Julie, I'll start with you. Is it growing? Do we have metrics? Or Sherry, Clyde, you probably can chime in on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started freelancing, it was one of those things where, like I said, it was either by choice or by default, and there weren't a lot of people out in the marketplace who were doing what I was doing. And so it was very essential to find a mentor. And with the Freelance Exchange, we've seen our numbers fluctuate throughout the years, just depending upon purely the economy. and the economy tanks and the ad agencies let people off, everybody comes to the freelance exchange. We're here no matter what, and we help anybody, whether they're in between jobs or whether they're career freelancers, but our goal is to really focus on the career freelancers. So numbers to us aren't really important, it's more about quality over quantity. But I will say that experts are predicting that even though right now a third of the workforce is freelancing or taking part of the gig economy in some capacity, by the year 2020, it's expected to be between 40 and 50%. And that's huge. That's huge, but we're ready.
But thoughts on that?
My only thought is to follow up on that. So her statistics are right, but so today it's about 16% of the overall economy. At least that's what Manpower says. 10 years ago, it wasn't that much. In the next 10 years, it will be 50% is the prediction. So I think what the challenge is the acceleration of this type of work. Because if you go from, that percentage to 50%, we don't have, as she said, sort of the systems to be able to support those individuals. You might be an expert in being able to do sort of the advertising and the campaign, but how do you run a business? How do you deal with the IT, the technology to make sure you're connected or interconnected to be able to be effective in that business? And so how do we make sure people are prepared with that? And also that they have sort of the mindset to keep growing. Because while you might be able to successfully run that business today, the pace and acceleration of change isn't going away. And so you're always going to have to stay on that leading edge, and having support individuals to do that. We as a society aren't there yet, right? To be able to do that, and we need to get there quickly. So that's
Because the work starts today, is what I hear you saying, right? Okay, other thoughts on do we see this growing, and how can we serve this population?
So the definition of a freelancer from our standpoint is a small business.
Okay.
I mean, it is a small business entity, and just for the record, 80% of all jobs that are created in a small business entity between people between 5 and 35 employees. In our region, particular, if you look at it from the workforce side, a good job, quote unquote, is defined as a job between $45,000 and $55,000 a year. 51% of the good jobs in Missouri, quote unquote, are a person with a BA degree. 49.1% of those without a degree. When you take that and cross-reference that, and then go down further down the line, you will find that about of those that don't have a degree, quote unquote, are certification. And the one thing that the market does not take, the Census Bureau and all the places that have all these statistics do not accurately reflect the value and the number of people who are in the small business program, because most of them, for the most part, only measure persons who have AA and BA certifications. So if you're an IT professional, you're a person that has a certification, it's not recorded. So you really underestimate the number of small business entrepreneurs who are hired in this community. The second thing, in Kansas City, we have excellent infrastructure. You see a small business, we have a lot of small business financing that happens just for events like these. Many people do not fill out a formal loan app. As we know, they sit across the board from a banker, just do a loan, $550 million, pay this, the proposal. They walk in, make a pitch, and you walk away with the equity loan. So the way that we traditionally measure and identify who, what, and where from a small business standpoint is not really keeping up with what's in Kansas City. Particularly when you understand that most 80% of our economic growth comes from within. It does not come from without. And you go to look at every major company in the city, look at the largest organizations in this place, Cerner, H&R Block, Henry Block, look at what story came out of a computerized app for your income taxes. When you look at it, most people who do that aren't doing an app. So when you look at that, just keep in consideration what this is, but the main thing in closing is the connectivity. Events like this, all those types of things are not recorded in the regular W2 statistics. So increasingly, things like this are really undervalued and undermeasured.
So we talk about utilizing digital to grow your business, but for many, it is still that person-to-person contact. Somebody once joked, Amy, you have made your living by going to happy hour. So, you know, you sit down and you really get to know someone, and then when something happens, oftentimes they will think of, I know that person. I know a person who can maybe help. So if we talk about barriers, right, to this type of work, I can remember what my barrier was, which is, what if I fail? Like, you know, that insecurity, that scare, right, as a Gen Xer. What other barriers exist, and specifically, what barriers are we seeing for younger, for millennials and stuff to enter? I'm hearing maybe it's not necessarily financing in Kansas City. We've got really good infrastructure. But what other barriers do we think exist?
So, I think we're talking about the actual entrepreneurs, or we're talking about students, and students who are growing up, perhaps in their mind is 100%, you know, technological world, because I think they have to have some experience in both. They have to, and we have to create those conditions. Part of it is not everything is not IT. When you go and look at some of these CAP programs around the country, you still see that there's a need for a lot of hand-on experience. When we talk about workforce development, we had an opportunity to visit the Northwind CAPS, I believe is what it's called. And we saw welding. We saw this automobile factory, I think it was Ford and Chevy. But what we saw was that the people who were controlling these computers were making about $19 an hour, right? The computers were controlling the robots. The robots were doing all the welding. But then recently I had a gas leak in my house, right? And a robot is not going to be able to come down to your basement and pinpoint exactly where that gas leak is. You actually need somebody that's trained, that can come into your basement and put whatever they put on here to detect that leak. And then they have to get in there and fix those valves and make sure that everything is ready to go, so, you know, we can continue to live. And so what I would suggest to you is, I think part of the barriers is that we haven't created these conditions where both of them are infused together. You know, in some cases, and even in some of my programs, we have it where it's still all hands-on, and then you have some where it's all basically IT technology based. And so we have to be able to combine both. And so what we said that we would do in this school district was, one, we had to start this at the elementary level and begin to grow these kids up, understanding how to do both. And so we are introducing Project Lead the Way Launch this year. Our board has approved for us to fund that initiative. It's a great way to introduce rigor. It's a great way to introduce technology. It deals a lot with STEM, but it also gives these kids opportunities to interface in maker spaces and those types of things where they're also utilizing they're doing hands-on activities while embracing what they already love, technology. So we introduced coding, we introduced Lego robotics. We're doing those things at the elementary level that I think would have a kid much more prepared when they graduate to go into the workforce, that they're going to be very valuable, that they can go either way. And so you want kind of a hybrid student. And this last piece, and I saw this when I worked at Kodak my senior year. I went to a Voc High School in upstate New York, and I was selected. I did electrical construction, and I was selected as the senior to go work at Kodak to do my co-op. And I remember working at Kodak, and I remember looking at the stock, and every day, you know, I just watched the stock. It kept going down. And what I didn't realize at the time was that the way that the photography, the cameras were evolving with other companies, Kodak couldn't keep up, right? And eventually, now I think we're down in upstate New York, the Rochester, New York area, to one warehouse facility where where Kodak is still doing business. But when I was in high school, they had a monopoly in upstate New York, and they don't anymore because they couldn't keep up, because they weren't able to pivot with the changes. And that's what I don't want us to do, is produce children that's not gonna be able to pivot and adjust to the changes of what the advancements dictate. And so that's part of what we're doing to help eliminate some of those barriers that currently do exist.
Dr. Gill, I was going to ask you, you said, we provide any kind of class to get the skill you need. What are you seeing at the community college where individuals who might want to become an entrepreneur, solopreneur, freelancer, what skills are they seeking out? What's the admissions look like for particular classes there?
They actually look for the practical skills and the hands-on. I am with the Business Technology Campus where it's all hands-on based. And so we have a lot of adult learners returning for whatever reason. I'll speak to me, I have a bachelor's degree in sociology. There's nothing I can do with that degree. And so there are a lot of people like me that went to school way back when, many years ago, got a degree, and now with the high tech, it is obsolete. It's a good degree, not knocking it, but if I were to go and get a job and I presented that, I'm not sure what I would do. Maybe teach, not sure about that as well. And so one of the things we're getting is a big influx of adults coming back saying, I need to learn this stuff, especially your Generation X, because I'm in that generation, and if you have a baby boomer still in the workforce, you've got to retool. And so we have skills and we have a lot of soft skills, but to come back and learn how to work the robots, learn how to work the machines, or for that matter, learn how to work your cell phone, we're doing some of those type of classes. They're economical but practical. Because I don't know any industry, whether it's Cerner or a hospital or Metropolitan Community College or Walmart or QT, you must know how to use technology. And so some of those quick hands-on, kind of get your feet wet, or if you get fully dunked into it and say, I want a full-blown career in IT, we're able to do that too. We work with a lot of companies that are sending people back to school to get retooled and retrained. And so we do that as well as individuals for our high schools. But mainly we're seeing a lot of adults coming back saying, I just need to understand this particular skill a little better.
There's probably a lot of entrepreneurs and freelancers in the audience, but for those who are maybe interested in breaking into it, Julie, I want to kick this to you. What's the daily life of a freelancer?
It totally varies. It depends on the person and their lifestyle and their niche and what they do. Sure, some people set office hours for themselves, 8 to 5, 10 to 6, whatever the case may be. Some people get up and work out in the morning. One of the biggest pros of being a freelancer is you can set your own schedule, which is amazing, and you can make it work for you. So it depends. Some people go to a co-working space. Some people work from home. Some people have a design studio. And gosh, you could be, maybe you set some time for education in the morning. Maybe you read in the morning, or maybe you check your emails, and then you do your social media. Then you go meet with a client, and then you come home, you do your estimate, and then, oh gosh, you're on deadline. So then you've got to actually do paperwork, which is great because that's what pays your bills. And then maybe once you're done at the end of the day, then you go to a networking happy hour because, you're always networking and things just don't stop. And you have to plan for the future. Even if you're super busy right now, you don't know what 6 months are going to look like. So it totally varies. But what's great about it is you can customize it yourself because that's the benefit of being a freelancer. You're your own boss.
Right. I always say that I can get my grocery shopping done on a Tuesday afternoon, but I might be working then on Saturday, right? So the flexibility is definitely a benefit. I want to ask now a little bit about what the city is doing to promote freelance work and what can we do more as a city? And Clyde and Sherry probably have some thoughts on that, but I want to open it up to the whole panel on what can we do to ensure, this. Do we need to have more regular networking opportunities? Do we need to really push out some of these classes that we're talking about to get retooled? Do we need to be better at capturing metrics and data so that we truly know what we're dealing with?
So I'll first sort of say that I think that Google Fiber coming to Kansas City when it came and sort of being the first, I know that it has its pluses and its minuses, but what it did do is it positioned Kansas City within the United States as sort of a place that embraces this. And we do have in this city, when you sort of look at it, a lot of resources that maybe don't exist everywhere. Some of them being, Kaufman Foundation and its entrepreneurship side of things, and a number of things that have grown up over the course of the last few decades, which I think is fantastic in Kansas City. We embrace this mindset, we're hard workers, and you can find ways to sort of do that work in lots of different ways. So I just sort of want to say, I think that's unique in Kansas City, and I have lived in other places where it isn't sort of embraced always in the same way. And so I don't know, I think it's always hard, just when you're working independently, to figure out how to connect across, the community and those things. I think the only other sort of with the city, at least where I'm working on with those in the city, Clyde's point about certain things aren't counted. We've been working nationally with Lumina Foundation and locally with the state of Missouri to try to figure out how to count those things that are industry recognized credentials, but currently the census doesn't count them, right? And so that doesn't mean they're not valuable, it just means it's really hard to count. The other thing that we have also, and part of why it's hard to count, just so you know, is that quality is hard to measure. Because not every IT degree results in a high-paying job. There's some where you paid a lot of money and then at the end you've got nothing in return. And so how do you measure that quality is what we're trying to work on. The other thing though that we're sort of looking at in those spaces is, there is a worker shortage right now. There are more jobs than there are sort of people who are positioned to be able to do those jobs. And so how do we work with businesses? I know this is more about sort of independent workers, but how do you work with businesses at a time like right now where we're having consistent growth and a shortage of employment to look at something other than a bachelor's degree? How do you start to sort of, again, measure that quality and the knowledge that comes from life experience, where at an employer level, they can start to really figure that out. So you're creating new pathways for people that maybe don't have that bachelor degree credential, but have the life experience that would bring them the opportunity. And so we're working with companies, we're just calling them signals or competencies, but how do we start to measure the mastery of those is something that we're working on, with the idea that non-degree workers will hopefully have pathways to good jobs both for themselves and within employers, small, medium, and large. I think the other thing is, and this is something we work with a few of our partners on, is how to help small and medium-sized businesses figure out how to grow their own workforce in sort of unique ways, whether that be with talent that comes from other countries, right, without feeling that you're assuming too much risk in that, whether that be young people, because when you're a small or a mid-sized company, sometimes it feels like that you're assuming legal risk, and maybe you're too busy trying to grow your own business to figure out how to bring those on. And so are there ways that we can help make that possible so that diverse talent is getting opportunities? People who maybe come out of Dr. Goodell's, their classrooms are not just having to sort of figure it out themselves, be connected to all of those opportunities. So those are a few things. And I wanted to just also mention, we've talked a lot about IT in sort of this independent workforce, but it is across all sectors. In pharmaceuticals, they have moved from doing research and development in-house to doing that through contract research organizations that then contract out that work to individuals. And that's sort of a highly skilled field, but even sort of the highest level scientists are now typically contractors, right? And it is also true in lots of other industries. And so we need to, for instance, there's a lot of talk within businesses around shared services. Well, what does shared services means? It usually means for your legal and for sort of all your back office, is there a way to just sort of contract that out, either to a smaller business or to an individual to do that work and not necessarily have them in-house. And so while IT is a pathway for a number of people, this is across the board, sort of the way business is thinking about how they're operating. And so there's lots of ways to engage in that.
So I have a business proposition for you. 2/3 of our organizational budget about $25 million. Has to be re-upped every 3 years. So by 2 years, I gotta figure out how to bring in another $14 million. That $14 million pays people's salaries, pays rent, pays pensions. So what do I do to do that? Which is a challenge any entrepreneur faces, except it's typically on an annualized basis, not 3 years. So how do I go about re-upping that? Well, it's with one market sector. They say, you're gonna fund you one time. I gotta scale it to another market sector. So how do I do that? I don't keep going to the same place I went before. So one thing that entrepreneurs, particularly in Kansas City, if y'all know Kansas City is a connected city, you gotta move around a lot in Kansas City. You stay in one room in Kansas City, you're gonna be in that one room. So you gotta go to another room, and quite frankly, there's a lot of people you might not know. So one of the things that we want to encourage millennials, like I made a contact right here, this young lady right here, so I might say, okay, here's the contact that I've got. Maybe for whatever it is that I'm going to be utilizing, maybe a contact that she knows that somebody can utilize, what happens. But I can tell you, even an entrepreneur, even when you have your own schedule, your own budget, you gotta make sure it's organized around trying to make sure at least you make a couple of touch points that you need to make to the outside of who you are. If I keep going to the same place, I mean, church is the same place, but if I want to hear a different song, I need to go to a different choir sometimes. Sometimes you need to go to a different church, right? Hear the message a little different way. One of the things in this town in particular, because Dr. Bedell and I both came from Texas, I came here along much longer than what he did. I didn't know a soul. Well, how did I go about going to soul? And I started showing them places. People said, well, why the heck are you here? I said, I'll meet you.
You didn't know a soul, and now there's not a soul.
But that's one aspect of it, and so we have a lot of venture capital equity courses around. It doesn't necessarily mean you need $50,000, maybe you need 12. And one of the things that we learned is you don't have to go big, you go small first, then you become big. Sometimes we notice people who try to do a huge thing first, which increases your likelihood of failure. And if you do fail, the magnifications of it are huge. So one of the things that I would just encourage is, hey, make your list. I think there's this thing on the thing called Alignable. Y'all have seen that thing, Alignable? I made a mistake at answering one of those. I made more people contacted with that because some little fly-by-night idea that we had. And I just would strongly encourage, A, to make sure you go where you're not. B, to make sure that whatever project or thing that you're looking at doing, don't try to skip it all at once, do it small. And C, make sure that at least 3 times a week you identify someone you know that you don't meet, that you meet that's structured and you have the information with it. Because in other words, let's say, well, you know, okay, let me figure out my cell phone. I don't care if the card that only has a pyramid on it. Stick it on there so I know how to get in contact with you.
I just wanted to add in, just going back and responding to some of what you said, and what I've heard over here consistently today is that there's a huge shortage of people available and ready to take on these types of assignments that many of our freelancers companies have created. And so 50% of you will probably say he's crazy for saying this. 50% of you will probably say, you know what, that's an interesting idea, but I'm throwing it out there because that's what I do. So the question, and I guess what I have for everyone is, man, if we know that there's a huge deficit with how public education in particular is responding and meeting the demands of this new society, why do we continue to educate kids the same way? Like, why do we continue to utilize the traditional model of schooling that was relevant for us, but we're sitting here and saying for some of us, our degrees are kind of obsolete now based on the advancements. Why do we continue to keep kids in that type of market where they're going to be ill prepared to meet the demands of what you all are out here developing? And that was one of the things that I had shared with Clyde and the Penn Valley president when we received a grant from FEC about really retrieving kids who have dropped out of school, 17 to 24-year-olds. And we said, we gotta think out of the box. We have to go non-traditional if you want those kids to finish their high school diplomas or get their GEDs. And we were able to do that. We started this partnership with MCC and the FEC, And we have these kids being housed on MCC's campus. And it started in March, it has been widely successful. We have a waiting line. I'm gonna have to go out and find some other funders to give us help. But what the program does is to put these kids in a non-traditional environment. It eliminates the embarrassment factor because they dropped out of school, right? So the third piece that it does is it puts them in an environment where they're with young adults. They live the life of a young adult, right? And then upon completion, part of the partnership is then to move them into where they can either go in and enroll and work on their associate's degree, or through this partnership, get a 2-year stipend so that they can develop some type of trade that's going to have them prepared to meet what you all want. And it's working. And it's a non-traditional model. It's something totally different. And it's totally different because it's not an early college academy. It is for kids that need second and third chances. And it's working. And so I think that as we continue to have this dialogue and these conversations, how to get people out of their comfort zone of what the norm is. The norm is no longer the norm, but we continue to operate under this mindset that the norm is the right way. It is going to continue to have this level of deficit that exists right now because our kids probably need to be educated almost in a freelance model, where it's customized based on what they want and ultimately meeting the demands. And our job is to make sure that we create the courses and the programs that meet the demand of what you all say this is what we need, and give the kids that freelance ability so that they're ready when they walk out of our schools.
I absolutely agree with that, and I'm going to tell you, it's not just a matter of educating the freelancers and the people who are going to become our future solopreneurs, but we also need to be educating the people who hire the freelancers. Yes. The freelance exchange in and of itself caters not only to those who are self-employed, but also to those who hire us. So we have opportunities, whether it's via our website or our annual portfolio showcase, that targets the local business economy, whether it's ad agencies and design shops or also large corporations and small businesses. These people don't know how to work with us. Many of them think that they do, but they don't. And so I think there's a disconnect there that we as a city, as a community, need to get involved in and educate them how best not only to find us, but also how to elicit our services and make sure that they treat us and respect us as well as any other vendor relationship that they may have.
Good point. I have several more questions, so we can extend this for like an hour. No, I want to kick it off. I want to turn it over to the audience for Q&A. So please, right there.
So we've talked about networking a little bit, and also, just having customers, those sorts of things. How do we support opportunities for people to get internships? I actually met Julie on a very memorable internship years ago. How do we support people in internships who can't afford to work for free? So we have people who their parents support them, or they have some other ability to be able to take advantage of that opportunity, but not everyone does. So whereas there are opportunities through the Full Employment Council, there are restrictions around that. How do we broaden that out to level the playing field?
I'm going to put my plug in for MCC. One of the things that we've begun and we're doing very well at are called apprenticeships, where you work, go to school, and get paid. And so to me, that has been the most successful thing. It is taking off. We're doing it in all areas. But because we have so many people that do need to work a real job with real money while they're holding their craft, that has done really well. The Department of Labor is supporting us, they're sponsoring us, they're giving funding to MCC, and we're now expanding those opportunities in all types of sectors. And so that's one option I know you can get at MCC.
So this has been something we've been struggling with, honestly, since 2015, because how do you scale that, right? And what we have figured out, and this is not rocket science, is that we need more internships, obviously. We need more businesses participating in internships. We need businesses of all kinds, small, medium, large companies, but it will probably never be able to be a one-to-one relationship because there's just not enough capacity for that as for internships alone, right? And so we've been looking at sort of experiential learning broadly. We include apprenticeships.
we look at mentorships, we look at job shadowing, and what we're also seeing is how do we sort of infuse that into a classroom? Because the best way to sort of scale it that we've discovered, and it's not that we're not trying to grow it, right? The best way to scale it is to make sure that the teachers in a school district like Dr. Riddell's and really across the entire region, that they get those experiences because they touch thousands of students and can broaden their horizons and make those connections for those individuals. So that's one way. The other is that so I talked about shared services, but we've been looking at establishing a regional broker for this, right? And we've been working specifically with Hire KC to see if we can expand it to scale in that way, so that even the companies that have long-standing internship programs that typically go to people where they're already within the networks, there's somebody who lives in their neighborhood or they eat dinner with, right, in their social circle, how do we open access to those for all, right? Maybe not every single position, but at least a portion of them would go to what we're titling sort of opportunity youth that wouldn't otherwise be considered. How do we grow the number of, and we have to do it together. Now this is where it gets tricky because the way these have typically been handled is transactional, right? Clyde has his relationships, MCC has their relationships, they want to grow those relationships. We're saying don't stop doing that, but can we together start to build something where it isn't just transactional, but we're looking at something that is system change so that then the people that everybody is trying to serve ultimately gain. And the reason we have to do this isn't because businesses aren't willing. Businesses are very willing. What business needs is for the noise to be filtered. They can't filter possibly 50 school districts, every teacher, another 50 some higher ed institutions, and every department and faculty member in that. And they're saying, uncle, somebody help us. Just have one point of contact. And we're happy to do more, but we just can't keep taking phone calls and figuring out who is going to actually deliver. And then they had one or two bad experiences with people who didn't, and it's hard to get them back. So anyway, that we agree, and it is the thing that sparks opportunities for people.
I think one thing though, I think we should promote the concept that, I mean, just think about how many companies have temporary firm contracts. What happens when people go on vacation? Think about how many companies have temp contracts, lead contracts, things of that nature, so that when they get ready to hire somebody, make every experience a learning experience. I mean, I don't know, she'll tell you, I'm a program, I mean, I make my money on the program. Time is out of programs. Sometimes we sit down and I said, hey, all these acronyms from my own staff, I said, please, just talk about what is the service, what is the best prototype model, right? You bake a good cake, it's got flowers, sugar, but it's a good model. You put too much baking, rise to the top, you put too much. So we need to tell people what it is that needs to exist in order to have a good working relationship that could be learning. I can tell you, she can talk about her degree as a sociology. Mine was in speech. My dad said, what you gonna do, talk for a living?
Another question. In the back, sir.
Okay, I want to feedback some things I've heard. Challenge. I've been wondering for some time why it's reported that there are tens of thousands of available jobs in Kansas City that are going unfilled. Spent a lot of time looking at data from March. Now, if I come back to this question of internships, if it was true that all those jobs were available, then that means there's money in the budget to pay those people salaries, or maybe to contract to them on an outsourcing basis. So what I don't understand is how do we allow businesses to get past the suggestion that, well, if you took 80% of that money you're willing to spend and spend it on a revolving internship program, like I did when I was in the Navy, where I constantly had young people passing through my responsibility area. I didn't get to figure out how good they were. I had to make them work and make them better and pass them on. So what I don't understand is who is championing, telling these businesses they're not carrying their load?
Yeah, good
They
question.
have the resources they have are exposure to work in real jobs. That's one thing. The second thing is the federal government is the largest employer in this area. I haven't heard one word this morning about preparing people for jobs in government. And the last thing I would say is listening to the capabilities that are here that I know about. This is true. We haven't heard anything here this morning that isn't backed up on a real thing. Do we not have the talent locally to piece this all together? Because that's what you all have been talking about.
Okay, good question. So I heard, how do we train companies to think outside of their box if they've got jobs available, they clearly have money, how do we transition that to freelance work? And Julie, I mean, what, are there some of the big companies that are sort of understanding that old ways are changing?
It's a slow process. I will say even just last week, there was an ad agency that contacted me. They've been looking for a full-time copywriter for a long time now, and they're not able to fill that position. I think one of the reasons is because the workforce is changing and more people want to be doing their own thing. So the talent just is not wanting to go full-time, employment anymore. So I had to kind of convince them, okay, well, I'm not going to go full-time. I already have my own full-time business in and of itself. But why don't you consider a different model, right? Why don't you consider bringing in 2 or 3 different freelancers? Maybe they work on site, maybe they don't. But think about that and see if you can structure it, because that's the way the future is going. And it's a big educational thing. Absolutely. And not only do we have to educate the freelancers, but we have to educate the businesses that are hiring us as well.
And Clyde, any chance we can convince the federal government to use contractors and freelancers, right? That's a tough nut to crack.
I have been a contractor, the federal government as an independent for 40 years.
Okay.
The answer is, there's a lot of money out there.
Okay.
And in keeping with what you said, I do think that it is advantageous to bring people in the room so they can download it. So I think, again, if you find those that are willing, maybe you start off with 10 government agencies that do that. And I can tell you, it happens all the time with some of these programs. It's nothing but a contract position, a 1099. They contract young people, and some of them have contracted 5,000. And then the question is, some companies do it on their own. Can we get everyone to agree on a model that is a transactional model where you work, you earn, you learn, and then based upon the experience, you come back next year? Because most of the young people that we work, it is a contract. So it's not 1099, but it's a contract that they with for the defined period of time. So yes, that's possible. You need to all be in the room as you suggested.
Okay, last question. Okay.
I just wanted to reiterate what you just said. I want to build my business. I don't want to work full-time at a copy agency. I'm willing to go in 1 day a week to learn and to help them build their business. I can't find companies that would want me 1 day a week. I do web developing, I can copyright. I would gladly go work for a web developing company 1 day a week, a copyright company 1 day a week, and build my business 3 days a week. These businesses don't want that model. They want a full-time employee with a W-2, and I don't want 8 W-2s.
Okay, so we've got 120 seconds to answer that one.
That's changing as well. I will say in the last 5 years, I've had 2 different contract dates where I work on site, whether it's 1 or 2 days a week. So there are opportunities out there. It's just a matter of either you finding them or them finding you. So my next question or challenge to you is, are you a member of the Freelance Exchange?
I'm not.
Please join me in thanking the panelists for taking time out of their library for giving us this beautiful space this morning for this event. So thank you very much for
Thanks, Amy. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, as promised, your 10-minute break. Just one thing before you run off. make sure that you signed in when you came in, that we got your name, and information, and email address, because that's how you're gonna take advantage of all the good stuff that's on offer. Okay? Everybody please grab your seats. Just for a little while. So I hope you all enjoyed that panel discussion. I know we could have gone a lot longer and there were probably lots of questions. We want to move it along. This is the freelancing one-on-one section of the day. Thanks everybody for grabbing your seats. I know we were all talking about doing networking, so now everyone's out trying to network. We'll do it after though. We're gonna get through the freelancing one-on-one here with Summer School. And then after that, there'll be some questions and answers. And then you'll learn a little bit about Udemy, you'll learn a little bit about Fiverr, and then we can all do a little bit more networking, and then we'll call it a day. Sound good? All right, everybody. So without further ado, Caleb Jonas from Summer School is going to get up here and talk to you guys about freelancing 101.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
What a great crowd for Monday morning. I'm impressed. To the diehards. So my name is Caleb Jonas. I'm with a nonprofit called Summer School. We are headquartered in San Francisco. I'll tell you a little bit more about who we are as the presentation goes on. But what I want you to know is two things. The first is that I'm going to do a 1 hour presentation or so today, depending on Brent's hand signals from the back of the room, 1 hour give or take. And the second is that there's no way I'm going to cover everything that I could cover today. As part of this digital workforce development initiative, we have a free online class that's available to everyone in the room. There's flyers on the front table for it. You'll also see the URL for the class is on every slide that I'm going to show, except for this one. We'll take a pause in the middle of the day so you guys can sign up for it too. So if there are things I don't get to, there are more resources to be had. My presentation style is relatively casual, so please feel free to raise your hand. I'm going to ask you guys some questions, try to make this a little more of a dialogue than of anyone having to listen to me talk for an hour on a Monday morning. The agenda for my time with you today, I want to tell you a little bit about our nonprofit, how we can be here today, the work that we do. I'm going to give you sort of a little bit of a 101 on independent work, why we think freelancing matters, and why we train folks around it. Then we're going to talk about the curriculum for the online class that we have, and I'm going to give you a sample version of sort of everything that we've got in that course. We're going to talk through all the other resources that are available, and then we'll do plenty of Q&A as we go along today. Any questions yet? No. Okay. People are awake though? Yeah? Yeah. kidding. I just found out the coffee can't come in, so save your flyer. Please head to the back door. So some housekeeping. We've got flyers. I'll pass them out when I'm done. There's some on the front table. You can take them for families, friends, community organizations. We want anyone who's interested to be able to take this class that we put up for you guys online about sort of freelancing 101. The course is free for a month, so September 5th, a month from today. You can sign up, take it on your own pace. You'll see the URL, see I'm starting to sneak into every slide now, in the bottom right-hand corner down there. It's samaschool.org/start/KC. And I'll only say that around 25 more times, so if you missed it now, it's coming back. Oh, there it is in bigger letters, the last bullet point, just to make sure I don't forget it. Let me tell you a little bit about us. We're a nonprofit. Our mission is to equip people to benefit from the world of independent work while advocating for a gig economy in which all workers can thrive. So we do two things. We do trainings to help people understand kind of what freelancing is, what it isn't, and to help people, especially folks who are unemployed or low income or have barriers, make informed decisions about whether or not freelancing is a good path for economic opportunity for them. That's kind of part one. Part two is we do research and policy and advocacy work to ensure that freelancing is a way of working that works for everyone who needs it. We'll get to this in a little bit, but we'll ask for a show of hands for folks in the room who have freelanced or who know others who have, and talk about some of the challenges that come with working in that way. That can be a long part of this presentation, right? There's lots of challenges that come with working like this. So we want to be sure that we're addressing those as an organization on a policy level too. So Samba School is headquartered in San Francisco. We do work in New York as well. We've got a partnership statewide with the California community colleges where we're training a bunch of students around California who are interested in becoming freelancers or taking the skills that they're learning in school. We're doing some work with the Goodwill in Northern Illinois, so we're kind of a nonprofit that tries to go wherever we can. And we're thrilled to be part of this initiative that Fiverr, our friends, helped convene along with the folks at Udemy. We really think that in communities across the country, independent work and freelancing can create a really powerful avenue for people to find ways to support themselves and to live flexibly with the right kinds of resources. And so you'll hear later today that Udemy is making available a whole suite of technical classes to help you develop hard skills in things like web development, coding, graphic design, that will be really helpful to make you marketable as a freelancer. The Samba School piece of this training is around how do you freelance successfully and what are the sort of soft skills around that. And then Fiverr is the largest global marketplace for high-skilled freelancers. So with those three elements coming out of this initiative, we think you'll have a lot of success and opportunity. People often ask about our name, Samba School, so I'm just going to get that out of the way. Our founder is Indian, and Samba is the Sanskrit word for equal. School is the English word for school. And so the notion is that we want everyone to have equal access to economic opportunity, which is why we've been named Samba School. What else about us? We're grant funded as a nonprofit. Our courses are free to anyone who wants to take them. We try and seek out support from foundations and governments and other kind of charitable individuals to make the work we do available to folks who need it the most. So that's a little about us. Anything else you want to know about the organization before I dive in? No, but people are still awake, right? Not. Okay, perfect. So I usually don't give this presentation following a panel full of experts on freelancing. So some of these slides seem kind of meager compared to what we've heard already. So just to kind of reinforce what we've heard, freelancing and independent work are probably the biggest trend in the workforce today in the US. This is a study I don't think we heard cited earlier, so I'm glad this is the one I put on the slide. These folks called MBO Partners that partner with Intuit to do an annual study around this just found that independent work will be part of the working lives of 50+% of Americans in the next 5 years. And the primary way that people will engage as freelancers is not for the rest of their working lives. So people will come in and out of freelancing, or it will be a secondary source of income for folks, or a way to bridge from an education program into a full-time job. And so it's our philosophy that this is going to be part of the way that 50+% of the people are working in this country. We need to prepare people for what this means, right? How to do it successfully, and how to know what the risks and the benefits are. So that's kind of where we're coming from as a nonprofit. Our goal here today is to help you apply the technical skills that you can learn, that many of you in the room already have, that you can further with the offerings from Udemy, and to take those into valuable learning opportunities that you can get on Fiverr or other online marketplaces to build your experience and to earn extra income. So that's what we're here to accomplish in an hour. So This is sort of how I like to start when we talk about freelancing, right? Freelancing, I think, oftentimes gets talked about as sort of the work for yourself golden ticket, right? If you're believing some of the advertising and PR around folks who want you to be a freelancer, where people will line up at your door, they'll just knock until you say no to the work that they have available for you. You have to negotiate down your rates because people want to pay you so much. It's not always that easy, right? What we've learned, especially in the work that we do, is that gig work, and I'll talk about terminology in a second. We tend to use gig work, freelancing, independent work more or less interchangeably. Can serve a lot of really useful functions. Has anyone here had a period of extended unemployment and been out of the workforce for a while? Perfect. I'm curious if anyone has, in those shoes, has had trouble finding a full-time job, kind of on the back end of that. Yeah, and why do you think that is? I'd love to just hear folks call out some answers.
Age discrimination.
Age discrimination, absolutely. What else?
Employers don't think you reliable because you've been out of the workforce.
Sure. So is it that leaving the workforce says something about how you'll perform when you come back? What else?
Skill set
Yeah.
deficiency.
Skill set deficiency. So sort of a lack of up-to-date skills or, yeah. So what we've, oh yes, sir. Last one.
It's also the added stress on the family that an extended period of unemployment creates that you now bring when you're trying to get back in the workforce.
Right, so there can be sort of more urgency and immediacy needed to get back to work. So what we found is a lot of the folks we work with, historically at our nonprofit, 60+% of the folks we work with are unemployed when they come into the program. Finding a gig can be much easier than finding a full-time job. Right, piecing together a portfolio of independent projects can help you demonstrate that your skills are back up to date, they can show that you're reliable, and they can help you start to earn income and get over that hump to getting your way back into the workforce. So that's one way that we see people use freelancing. The second is folks who want a flexible work schedule, right? Does anyone in the room, you can just do a show of hands, care for children, elders, others in their community, or have other reasons that they might want a flexible work schedule? Raise my hand. Right, if you are able to manage your time correctly, we heard earlier someone who said if I do grocery shopping on a Tuesday afternoon, I can. Right, it just may mean that I have to work on a Saturday, but you get to manage your own time a little more flexibly. People who want to build experience for their resume. We do a lot of work, there was talk about IT earlier today. We do a lot of work in the Bay Area with IT training organizations. And what we've heard from employers is that the average entry-level IT job in San Francisco requires 2 years of work experience. How do you get an entry-level job without them require 2 years of work experience, right? That's a real problem. And this is folks who have gone through 20-hour A+ certification programs, I'm sorry, 20-week A+ certification programs that really devoted themselves to their craft and they can't crack into their new field. We found that people who are able to put together portfolios of projects that they've done, turn those into references, and can put those on a resume and really have more success in converting those into a full-time job. And then the final is folks who need extra income. Right? Sometimes, some months, our expenses are higher than other months, or sometimes we want to save up for a goal, and the full-time job that we have isn't making that happen. Freelancing can be a good way to kind of supplement what you're already making. And then a final one I'll add to this list, and then I'm going to ask for thoughts here. I was teaching this class a couple of weeks ago in San Francisco, and someone said, I really like the work that I do, and I really hate having bosses. Do you think freelancing would be a good fit for me? I think the answer is yes, right? If you're someone who likes to do the work that you do every day, but you don't like the bureaucracy and the management around it, this could be another way to get out of that. Curious if folks would add other things to this list. Yes, sir?
I would definitely change extra to needed.
Change extra to needed. Okay.
Because
Sure.
the truth is, I don't know anybody who's freelancing who feels like they're piling up a large reserve.
Got it. Okay. I hear you. Yeah, I know some folks who would put themselves in that category, I think, but both are true, and they may be separate. One is to meet immediate needs, and then one is perhaps as a supplemental discretionary source.
Well, there's retirement.
Sure. Yeah.
Healthcare.
Sure. Thank you. What else would folks add? Covered it. Yes.
Fulfillment.
Fulfillment. Say more about that.
I like to build things. You don't get a lot of opportunities to build stuff working for the man.
Yeah. So when you're out from under the man, you've got more creativity and more opportunity to take on projects that may be personally fulfilling. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So this is just some of the things, and as we're going through today, you're probably in the room already because you have an interest in this topic, right? So I don't have to convince you that this is something worth paying attention to. But just in case, think about this list and think about where you might see yourself on here. I'll talk quickly about this. I don't have my notes in front of me, but we have a student who we taught in New York, whose name was Felicia, I want to say, who we reached through a community partner there who had been cutting hair in her community for years, just on the side for her cousins and family and friends. And she never thought of it as a potential earned income stream. It was just something she did for fun in her community and as a sort of act of service. And she went through our training with our help and with some other programs that she got. She sort of turned herself into a small business owner offering haircuts in her community. So it's just another way of saying that this can sometimes be something that you really need to upskill to do, and there's lots of opportunities to take classes to get you to new occupations and new industries. But there also may be things that folks do as hobbies or for fun that are monetizable with the right amount of kind of education and market research. So just a fun story for you to keep in mind. So let's talk terminology, because this starts to become a little bit of a word soup. Well, let me first ask, how would someone in the room define freelancing? Working for yourself. Anyone want to add to that? Argue with that? Yes?
Working for others but on your time schedule.
Working for others but on your time schedule. So working for yourself but for others at the same time.
If I sign up for a job, I still have to comply with their requirements for that job. So I'm still working for them, but it's still on my time schedule.
Right. So you're sort of your own day-to-day manager. Yes, sir.
Passion project.
A passion project. Perfect. So back to the fulfillment that the man doesn't let you have. Perfect. So the way we use this terminology is we think of it as a piece of project-based work that exists for a limited amount of time or a limited scope. Right. So somehow it's project-based. It either has an end deliverable or an end date, or sometimes both. You'll hear a lot of these words get tossed around. If there are any economists in the room, I apologize already because these things get all mixed up for us, but they don't for the IRS. So self-employment has a very specific meaning if we're looking at taxes and finances. But these are some of the phrases that we use. And before I go further, let me do a show of hands. Who in the room has experience working independently? Okay, perfect. Who's doing so currently? Perfect. Most of the people in the room. Who is not doing so but wants to? Okay, that's more or less everyone else. Did I miss anyone? Cool. So I'm going to ask you guys a lot to help me fill in because you know this stuff better than I do. But this is a starting point for our conversation. So would you add any phrases to this list? I'm always trying to collect more stuff. 1,100.
Well, we've got like 101 different terms
Yeah.
to find out with the Freelance Exchange. And currently, if you go to our website, you'll see our tagline is freelancer, contractor, consultant, whatever you call it,
Right.
this is for you.
Yeah. So contractor is missing. We've got consultant.
Moonlighter, solopreneur.
Moonlighter, solopreneur. What was the last one?
Mamapreneur.
That may apply to a subset of people. Yeah. So lots and lots of names, right? And I think the reason we come back to the definition is if you see yourself doing project-based work where you're largely your own database supervisor for another person, you probably fit on this list somewhere. I recently added side hustle, and actually it's funny, we did this presentation in Stockton, California a couple of weeks ago, and someone in the audience told me that side hustle was offensive, which was a surprise to me. So I hope no one here is offended by side hustle. But I learned from teaching this in the community in San Francisco, this is what folks under the age of 24 recognize as. No one there self-identifies as someone with a freelance earned income stream, but if you talk to them about their side hustle, people in the room light up. So, yes?
Vendor is another word.
A vendor.
Government
Right.
contracts and things.
For certain kinds of procurements or, contractual relationships. Yes.
I would like to challenge your notion of project-based work
Sure.
because there are instances where freelancers are on a contract basis and they work a little bit here and a little bit there and it's not project-based.
So someone who's like on a retainer and kind of takes on.
Yes or no, it could also be a virtual agency, so like, if they don't have an in-house marketing department, like
Right.
they can fill in throughout the year just as their needs ebb and flow.
Yeah, so I would argue that then that you're in a position to take on discrete projects because of an ongoing contractual relationship. So at some point, the unit of work is project-based. We can talk more about that. And the IRS has very strong feelings. And again, for the undercover agents in the room, I said that out loud. So I think the notion is that this is, and also I think the last thing I'll say is that the workforce is becoming increasingly this way, not just for people that are categorized themselves as independent contractors, but sometimes staffing agencies and other traditional employment agencies will often find people in flexible work situations. Right? So you don't have to just be in business for yourself to find yourself with a more flexible project-based work arrangement. All right, so I'm going to give you a really quick crash course of the online class that we're making available today. It's got 4 sections to it. We've got an orientation, we've got a section on how do you find independent worker gigs, we've got a section on how do you do gigs successfully, and then the 4th is on how do you kind of connect doing independent work to whatever your long-term goals are. That may be to being an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or a mamapreneur or a papapreneur or whatever kind of preneur, or it may be that you want to use independent work as a way to establish yourself in a new field and get into a full-time job. So that's sort of our class helps consider all of those different options. So the first unit of the class is sort of what is independent work and how can it work for you. Before I go on to the next slide, I'm wondering if we could just do a quick brainstorm as a group of pros and cons of being a freelancer or working independently. And the last time I did this presentation, I made a mistake, which was I made this open-ended conversation, and that was the rest of my hour. So I'm going to time this a little bit. But I'm wondering if we can let's start with cons maybe, and then we'll do pros. The hands always go up for cons. Yes?
No health insurance.
No employer-provided health insurance, right? Yes.
Guaranteed paycheck.
No guaranteed paycheck. What else?
Yeah, so good.
It's unpredictable, right? In terms of both benefits and also kind of the regularity of the work and the income. Yes.
The difficulty of collecting your money when you're not going through one of those things.
Right. Crappy clients.
Exactly.
Yeah, there are different categories of crappy clients, right? Yeah.
No 401k matches.
Right. No 401k matches or 401k necessarily. Yes, sir.
Tax implications.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Tax implications.
You can pay your self-employment tax.
Yes, so much more complicated and involved set of tax rules and requirements.
Well, the burden that you have to pay. is
And
all-
more. So more complicated and more money. Yes. Let's do maybe 2 more. Yes, sir?
Takes a thick skin. I don't know how many people saw the article last week about the Google workforce and the red badges versus the white badges, and now there's more red badges. But
Right.
there's a whole raft of sort of psychological grit that it takes to work in some of these large organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, for better and for worse, you're sort of your own boss, and you don't get acclimated to a workplace culture the same way you might as an employee. And for anyone who's interested, there was a really interesting article last week about how at Google's headquarters now in Mountain View, there are more contractors on site physically every day than full-time employees. And there's a lot of kind of unease about what that means from a benefits perspective, and culture perspective, and who has access to which folks on campus, and it's a good article. I saw one more hand. Yes, sir?
Structure or lack of?
Structure or lack of, which could be a pro or a con, right? I am someone who does not do well managing my own time, and I think I would absolutely drown as a freelancer. But there are people for whom that amount of flexibility is a real upside too. All right, let's do pros. One more con?
One more con.
Okay, one more.
Rejection.
Say again?
Rejection.
Rejection, right? So getting used to being told no a lot. Okay, pros. Yes.
You're your own boss.
You're your own boss.
Setting your own hours.
Setting your own hours, flexibility, right? Yeah.
The IRS implications, because you can set up a step, you can take deductions, you do it correctly.
Right.
But you have to keep it fixed.
Yes, so that there are tax or financial advantages to being self-employed, but they require more work and more know-how probably than if you're just traditional employee. I see you guys, hold on, I'm gonna circle the room a little bit, yeah.
Flexibility, not just with your time, but also what you do. So if you enjoy web development, but you also enjoy, I don't know, being a craft printer or something like that, you can
Right.
also sort of mix those together.
Variety, right, different kinds of projects. Yes, sir.
I would say like a greater ability to sell value than the marketplace tends to afford when you're just comparing jobs to jobs. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I follow.
So if a digital marketer, for example, out in the workforce gets paid $30K,
Yeah.
that doesn't have to be that way in freelancing. Because I feel like, at least in my own experience, a greater ability to sell value rather than just compare myself to that other guy that fills in the job over there.
Which has to do also, I think, a little bit with kind of picking your projects and delivering on areas that are
Yes, there you
customers'
go, that's probably a better look.
Yeah, that's great.
You can choose your own clients and fire sucking.
Right. When was the last time someone got to fire one of their bosses? I want to hear those stories to have you. But if you're a freelancer, one of the most empowering things you can do is fire that client, right? Yeah.
You can work with your friends.
You can work with your friends, absolutely. Either formally or informally, right? You can join the freelancer exchange, for example. Yes.
And kind of along with that, just collaboration, if they're your friend or not friend, like there's some pretty amazing minds you can tap into, and just, it's extraordinary what can happen when you're collaborating.
Yeah, and opportunities for maybe more varied collaboration than you would get if you're going back to the same workplace, sitting at the same desk with the same folks every day. All right, any last burning pros? Yes.
You could feel two different things. Like I've been trained in analytics, SEO, and also a web programmer. So for a small place, I thought that's where it was going with value for money, but for a small place, I can actually charge more because I'm going to be fulfilling 3 roles.
Right, and you can also, so you can kind of bundle your skills together in a way that may provide more value to the client.
Or take them apart because there's
Or
some
take
people
them
that don't want.
Right.
Yeah, you have like 4 or 5.
And it comes back to the place about variety too, right? There's multiple things you want to do, and you can find it in multiple places. Yes?
And honestly, there's more money to be made in this space than there is by punching a time clock.
I think that can be true. I think there can also be less money depending on kind of what kind of work you're doing and how you set yourself up. But I think there is a lot of upside. I was just saw that same study that I cited earlier, and if folks want to Google it, it's MBO, I think the State of Independence, found that the number of freelancers in America in the last 5 years, in terms of folks who are doing it full-time, is roughly unchanged. The percentage of those people that are making more than 100,000 a year is going up exponentially. So people who are sort of persisting in this are finding a lot of economic success doing it. Now, some of those people may be architects and lawyers and doctors and people who are making that same money elsewhere. Yes?
One of the advantages is sort of subtle, is that if you have a household and you have children, they get accustomed to being more agile if you manage this well. But it's a risk. But from the standpoint of your kids going in, listening to Dr. Bedell earlier talking about how do we create this mindset of having to be agile for the rest of your life, I'm not sure that people who work independently take advantage to talk about that quite as much as they might.
But the benefit of modeling it for young people in your lives, right? I love that. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, I think it's really interesting to think about how our K-12 systems might look different if we think about this as the future of work. That was a great conversation earlier. So perfect. So the online class was more into pros and cons. This is sort of, we talked about a lot of these. I think that a couple more that I would call out is that if you're a contractor, you typically have to provide your own materials and goods, whether that's hardware or software or anything else. You may find yourself working independently more, depending on your ability to find colleagues or peers or folks to collaborate with. And benefits are almost never provided, right? We talked about that earlier as well. So we've got a longer list on the online class, but here's just sort of a starting point of the side-by-side. I think you guys covered most of these. So the second part of the course that we teach is very much around how to go about finding independent work. There's a lot of different elements to that, right? Some are logistical, like literally where do you go? Do you go online? Do you go to churches and community centers? Do you put up flyers on telephone poles? And then there's a piece of, once you figured out where you're going, how are you successful in breaking through potential clients and selling your services? I was teaching a class, again, a couple of weeks ago in San Francisco to a woman who said, it never occurred to me when I signed up to be a freelancer that I also have to be my own marketing and sales department. Right? That's a whole different piece of this. Many folks are not motivated by making a shift into independent work, but that becomes very quickly. So we talked a lot in our class about how to build a strong personal brand for yourself. How to create, if you're using a website or a marketplace like Fiverr, or even if you're not, and you're creating a Craigslist ad or something in digital portfolio, how do you create a strong brand both in how you write about yourself and how you demonstrate your work. And then how to make sure that that transits on the platform. So I'm going to dive into that just briefly. But before I do, I want to take a quick pause. I promised this part of the class was coming. So we've got some online resources that we've made available to folks today. There are a couple of things that I just want to call out. One on the left, and I'm sorry, this is 2 different screenshots. This is a really bad slide. I apologize on behalf of my intern. I'm really the intern, I made this yesterday. The one on the left is we've got a list of resources and tools on our website for freelancers that we're always adding to. This is not stuff that we built ourselves largely, but it's other web-based services and tools that we think will be helpful. The one on the right may be interesting to folks. It's a tool that we built called the Work Finder. It's basically a database of web-based independent work platforms. So we built it so that you can see it on, let's see if I can use the pointer. Look at that. So on the right, there's a list of skills. On the left, there's a list of filters. And you can go through there and it'll spit out all kinds of different websites and platforms where you can go to find work. The way to access this tool is to sign up for our online class, which is what we've made available today. So I'm going to take a break, have a sip of water, and I'm going to ask if folks have computers or phones on them, that you just go ahead and register to be sure you get access to these tools and these resources. So it's samaschool.org/start/KC. I'm going to take a 2-minute hydration break, and then we'll start from here. All right, I'm gonna leave this up for another minute or so. And as I said, we've also got flyers. So as you're leaving today, we would love you to take those and share this opportunity with anyone you think would be interested. All right, so back to the speed course. So we were talking a little bit about personal branding. A big part of that, right, are what are the skills that you have to offer? What are the talents that you have? What are the kind of lines of work that you can offer to a client? I'm just gonna sort of set the stage a little bit for Shannon from Udemy, who will be up here in just a few minutes. But when you come out of here today, you're gonna have access to a whole wealth of courses made available by Udemy. So just as you're thinking about that, I challenge you to keep some of these questions in mind, right? What are you already good at? What are the skills you have? What are the resources that you have already? And where can you build on those using the skills in the courses that are going to be made available to you through Udemy? So I'll just let Shannon speak more about that when she comes up. But just a good way to sort of think about how to further your professional development through those classes. So we talk a lot about how to create a personal brand or a profile that will attract clients. If you're building this online, if you're building it on paper, it sort of applies equally. We tend to teach our class for online marketplaces, assuming that that's where a lot of people will go to find work, but obviously a lot of it still applies. So we encourage folks to be unique and to play to your strengths, while also remaining professional, right? That's always a little bit of attention. And then thinking about what the client has, what the client needs, and how you can speak to that. So I'm gonna throw up 2, these are real kind of personal brand statements from students that we've trained in the past that are on a website called Field Nation, which is a kind of hub for IT contracting. And I want you to, as we're reading these, think about who you would hire if given the choice between the 2. So this is number 1. This student says, I am a PC technician. I have many years of work experience in computer hardware and repair, network cabling, and Wi-Fi setup. I'm currently enrolled in an A+ and an A+ certification program and will be certified soon. In addition, I am self-motivated and able to follow instructions well. I have reliable transportation and I'm able to do work on weekends. That's example 1. Example 2. I have been in data communications for over 30 years. owned my own company with over 100 employees and contractors at various times, but got tired of dealing with the nonsense. Just wanted to do what I enjoy and work in the field. So I want you to think about the two, and we're going to do a quick poll. If you had an IT job and you needed to hire someone to do it, can I see a show of hands if you would hire the first example? Okay. And what about the second? Okay. What about neither? Alright. What about both? Okay. Let me hear arguments. Who liked the first one more? Yes. Why did you like the first one more?
There's not anything negative.
Nothing negative. And what's negative about the second one to you?
Dealing with nonsense.
Dealing with nonsense.
But I would, given the choice, I would go with either, because
Right.
they don't speak to me.
Got it. So neither speaks to you as a customer.
I want to read myself in the description.
Okay. So neither speaks to you. Yes.
I wouldn't choose the second one unless I wanted to lead a team or something like that. I definitely wouldn't choose them with what they put on the paper to complete a program, because they've been 30 years supervising someone doing the work.
Yeah. Okay. Other folks who would prefer the first one. We hear one more argument for the first one. I'll put it back up as a refresher. Yeah.
The first one sounds more like a learner, more open to interact with other people and learning from them.
Yeah. So someone who's sort of demonstrated their ability to go back and keep learning, who's a little bit open to coaching, maybe. All right, who would prefer the second one? I saw some hands earlier. Yes.
At this both things, I think this guy's got experience, this person's been, dealt with various scenarios.
Right.
And it's more shorter to the point.
Yeah. So shorter to the point, maybe I've heard people say about this one that he's not trying to sell himself, which sort of sells him effectively. Yeah. Anyone else want to make an argument for the second one? Yes.
Along the lines of what was said earlier, if what you need is a master to run a project.
Right.
If that's what you're looking for, then the other guy is still a apprentice journeyman candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So it very much depends on the job.
The specifications of the project.
And again, if you don't want somebody who's going to be independent running the job, you would think twice. But if you do want somebody who's independent, he's signaling that to you.
Yeah. Right. He's certainly signaling that working with others is not his favorite part.
No, I don't think that's
No? Okay. That's what I get out of it. Yeah.
The thing about the second one is that he said he only wants to do the things he enjoys, but he doesn't specify what those are. So if you were looking for somebody to lead, you don't know what he's good at leading.
Yeah.
He only wants to do what he wants to do, but you don't know what that is.
Right.
He should have listed, these are the things that I really want to work on.
And I will say, in his defense, I've excerpted this from a fuller profile.
Okay.
It has a list of services offered.
Okay.
So I want to move us along because I'm wary that I only have 10 minutes for the hand signals in the back of the room. But I think this is exactly what I wanted to show, which is that there's no clear right answer, right? We have a room of folks in this, or a room full of people here who are experienced either as freelancers or hiring freelancers in some capacity, and there's a difference of opinion. There's no perfect way to pitch yourself, right? So the tips, and we talk about this more in class, is to not set up a personal brand in your marketing materials that you can't deliver on, either from a skill perspective or from a personality perspective, right? If you write something warm and bubbly and say that I'm a delight to work with and everyone always ends my projects by hugging me, and then you show up with a scowl, that leaves a bad taste in the mouth of customers, even if the work is done well. So we think a lot about sort of how you can build a consistent experience for the folks that you're doing work with. Oftentimes you'll have a chance to write an About Me section if you're either putting together a bid or you're creating an online profile or marketplace. We teach this in the online class that there's a formula that we say that your personal brand equals your unique personality plus your work experience and credentials. Right? So you want both of those to come across whenever you're putting together kind of a personal brand statement. And details are helpful, right? I can say anything about myself in an online profile. If anyone here has ever done online dating, you know that people can say anything about themselves in online profiles that may not be true when you meet someone in person. There's nothing to stop me from saying that I am a top 5 writer in all of the United States. What's more powerful is if I give you writing samples or if I give you references that can speak to that. So the credibility and the specificity is an important piece of how you market yourself. You'll see someone here who's got is pitching themselves to be a professional writer, right? Resumes, cover letter writing, LinkedIn, etc. I think I won't read through all of this because I'm starting to go a little bit hoarse, but if you read this, I think it's a relatively well-written example. And if you're trying to get a job as a writer, the quality of writing in your profile when you write about yourself is a very important asset, right? This is also someone who talks about their specific experience and uses industry terminology, right? It's an ATS compliant resume. ATS, as I understand it, is a system that can automatically parse resumes to see if someone gets interviewed for a job or not. It's sort of like an automated first screening. So this is someone who clearly knows what happens once they finish the product and what the sort of goal of it is. And then, of course, if we had more time, we could have an interesting conversation about what it means as a freelancer to include a satisfaction guarantee. Sometimes those can become open-ended invitations for clients to say, well, I'm 85% satisfied, but you had a satisfaction guarantee, and so to get to 100%, I need ... On the other hand, it can be a way to demonstrate that you really are committed to the quality of your work, right? So that's something we can pick up again at happy hour, because we don't have time to go through that completely. And then the final piece is that oftentimes, especially if you've got a digital presence, you have a photo, right? And the photo says a lot to a potential client about who you are and how you work. Brian, you gotta remind me, what's the stat from Fiverr about the power of the photos and the videos?
Yeah, so it was, people could use a photo in their Fiverr. So Fiverr is the marketplace where people sell their freelance services. The photo in the gig or in their profile increases sales 25 to 30%. So that's over someone who uses just an image of something, static, picture of a tree, picture of something else, or even a hand drawing themselves in an actual photograph. Videos, when someone shoots a quick video, and it doesn't have to be relevant for their gig, it's just, hi, I'm Brent, and I'm on Fiverr, and I'm selling something, and it doesn't have 40% increase in their sales.
Yeah. So I think people want to know that there are real people on the other end of the transaction, is sort of what I take away from that. And then there are photos and there are photos, right? So, I mean, this is silly, but this is a useful example, I think. That if you were to consider a freelancer on the website with this picture, what's wrong with this picture as a professional headshot? Yeah.
Not her. Stretch.
Yeah.
Not you.
You saying I don't look like my photos? Is that what you're saying?
And I don't think it's
It's not professional.
It's not professional. What makes it not professional?
Pose.
Pose. You don't have cleavage and makeup. Right. So there's a lot of views here. This may not be someone who's trying to make a professional impression, right? I think we talked about most of these. It's also sort of an odd facial expression. She's not smiling. It's a very low resolution and stretched photo. And especially if you're trying to get digital work from someone who expects you to be able to use the internet successfully, having a photo that's not kind of accurately resolved is a bad sign. And it's not a professional setup, right? On the other hand, here's someone, we remember the professional writer before, this is her photo, which I think works really well. I think it's bright, I think you get a sense of her personality, it's sort of a headshot, but a little bit more than that. She has a smile, she looks pleasant to work with. And so, just kind of, it's meant to be a side-by-side reminder that photos make a big difference. And as Brent said too, that shows up when you're talking about consumer goods platforms, that there's a real monetary difference. And so investing in a good photo is, I think, highly recommended. So pricing strategies, if you're thinking about how much, and this again, we go into a lot more detail in this in the online class, this is a really important question. If you're thinking about freelancing, or if you are freelancing, how to determine how much you charge for your work, right? We think of the sort of two basic ways to think about it. The first is income-based, how much do I need to make at the end of the day? And then how do I need to charge to get to that amount of money? The second is market rate, right? You want to know what competitors there are and what they're charging. Because if you're charging 10% of what everyone else is charging, you're leaving lots of money on the table. And if you're charging 250% of what everyone else is charging, you may end up with no work at all. I think it's especially important if you're going through online platforms, but even if you're not, to think about the difference between what you charge and what you keep. Right? And this may seem obvious, but if you're trying to do this as a primary way of living, you don't want to end up with less money in your pocket than you expected and be unpleasantly surprised by that. So this is just one small example, which is that if you find a 2-hour job to do that pays you $72, but you got $5 for gas to get there, let's say you found that job through an online platform, which takes a 20% fee, and let's say you're setting aside 25% of what you earn for taxes, right, just roughly. you end up making $20 an hour. So it goes from a 72-hour or $17 job for 2 hours to $20 an hour. So depending on what you set out to make, that may be great or it may not, but doing that kind of math before you say yes is probably a good way to ensure that you're able to meet your needs. And we've got, again, on the online class, there's a tool that walks you through this. All right, so let me ask here, of the folks in the room who have been freelancers, how many of you have had word of mouth referrals? I've had business come to you from someone who's not in your group. Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, why is it a good thing? You don't have to work for it, right? Why else?
You don't have to pay that 20%.
You don't have to pay the 20%, yeah. What do you say?
I was gonna say, if you've worked with the person that's being referred and you like working with that person, odds are really good that it's gonna be a similar type of person.
Right, so it's a customer you may have to be less likely to fire, right? Were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, I work in experiential environments.
Okay.
So I'm an event designer. So someone needs to experience one of my events and then they go share that story, that what they felt in the moment, that does way more than a photo will ever do.
Yeah, right, so it's basically giving a trial of the product, right? Someone who knows what the work looks like. Yes, in the back.
You have to bypass that ATS filter.
Right. And so you're ensure that your proposal will get looked at. So I think, what we often say is that, and you'll see it, I'm sorry, I didn't talk through these bullets. These are all of the components of this portion of the course, so there's a lot of stuff in there on financial planning and taxes, time management, trust and personal safety as a freelancer. I hone in on the kind of reviews and reputations piece, because for us, that's sort of what drives success as a freelancer, right? If you can develop positive relationships with your clients and they like your work, A, they'll come back to you, B, they'll spread the word about you, and C, it allows you to continue to strengthen the relationship with them, or perhaps go into other lines of work with them as you're building that relationship. The opposite can also be true, right? If you have bad experience with clients, that can kind of spiral into a negative reputational bubble, especially in an online platform where your reviews are transparent and anyone can read what's on the bottom of you. And so it's one of the reasons we think that kind of the customer service skills of what it is to be a freelancer are an enormous part of what makes you successful or not. All right, I'm just looking at the time. So finances and taxes, we go into a lot more of this online, and a lot of it is specific to your circumstances. As a rule of thumb, we recommend that you set aside 25 to 30% of what you earn for taxes, just in case. And then keep every work-related receipt that you can, because of some of the tax advantages you can get from those. And then finally, the last piece of the course talks about how you can use independent work to advance your career by putting it onto your resume, improving your digital presence, putting it on your LinkedIn, talking about it in interviews, etc. Right? This work doesn't happen in a vacuum. I was talking recently to someone who got hired as a tech support specialist and who used their experience as an Uber driver to get the job. And that may not seem like an obvious leap to you, but they talked about their ability to deal with difficult customers, to make real-time decisions, to manage their own time and projects. A lot of the soft skills that you develop as a freelancer are things that employers are looking for in traditional jobs. And so thinking about how you translate that work onto your resume can also be a really powerful asset. So I think that's where I'm going to stop. Brent, am I 10:25?
Yeah, it's even 5 more minutes.
Okay, well, we can do a little Q&A, but I'll leave this up. This is the online class. Actually, why don't I leave this up in case folks want to contact me? That's my email address. I'm happy to receive feedback or continue the conversation. But let's take a couple of questions. Yeah.
Yeah, you said that you don't want to price yourself too far above or below what other people are pricing for. Is there a section in your class on how to find that out?
Yes, so we talk a little bit about how to do market research. Depending on what field you're in, for an online platform, you can sign up as a potential client and put projects up or browse through other folks in their area. If not, it may be more word of mouth and trying to find people in the network locally and kind of asking around. It's one of the benefits of something like a freelancers exchange or going to marketing events, to networking events rather, is to just sort of learn and meet others in your field. Yes, sir.
A couple things. One thing with regard to market research, one resource person should have is the local public library. Like I'm the supervisor of the HR office, assistant director of dental research. One of my jobs now is to market research. And in terms of, I was just going to piggyback on.
I just want to be sure everyone has heard that because that's an amazing resource. So we say it a lot.
We have an HR Bach Business and Career Center down at the 3rd Floor Central Library. And my job is to help entrepreneurs with their market research, help them identify there were potential customers or competitors worried about industry trends, that sort of thing. I was just going to mention with regard to learning how to price your product or service, one thing I mention to people is it's a good idea to visit. You can visit with local people, but you also might want to visit with other professionals in peer cities because local people sometimes are not going to be, if you're potential competitors, then they might not be quite as forthcoming as if you're visiting someone in peer cities.
Right.
Another just question I have was, can you tell us anything about just in, generally speaking, how do you approach the idea? You said, I guess a little part of the curriculum is time management.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways that you can sort of present that very amorphous sort of concept. How do you talk about that? And
Sure.
How do you talk about time management?
Yeah. So we talk about it in a couple of ways. We first sort of differentiate what time management looks like sort of on the job for a freelancer versus time management for your life as a freelancer. Because there's sort of two different components, right? One is the idea of the unpaid time that you spend searching for work, and how do you structure that in, and how do you ensure that you're sleeping and going to the gym and seeing the great outdoors sometimes. Then there's a question of if you have a project that's due in 3 weeks, and you know that you have to deliver a document then, but there's no interim deadline, it's how you manage your time.
Prioritization.
Yeah, so it's something each. Yes, sir.
You had said earlier that through September 5th, you could sign up for free classes.
Yes.
And then you went on to say anyone could sign up for free classes whenever they wanted. So I'm curious if there's a deadline, and after September 5th, do these classes cost money, or what's?
So two pieces to that. The summer school piece of this is free to anyone who wants to sign up by September 5th. And then I think we're turning off sign-offs on September 5th, but the class will live on for anyone who signed up. And that's anyone in the room, anyone who goes to this website can have that. Part of my work here, so I don't want to thrill everyone with the background of how we work as a nonprofit too much, but we're trying to find community partners who want to offer a version of our class in person or elsewhere in the community. So we may well find ways to work with other institutions locally to continue to make this content available after September 5th. That's, but for now, that's sort of what we have available.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's all we have time for.
That's all we have time for. All right, well, thank you guys for your attention. I appreciate it.
That was actually a really good segue because people that are here in this room, you do have access to something that is pretty unique that others that didn't attend don't have access to. It's kind of why I reminded you of the break to sign up. That's why Caleb wanted you to go ahead and start the Summer School course. All of these things have monetary value, but for people who are attending, this is something that you'll get. We're coming down the home stretch here. We have a little bit on what is Udemy and what is Fiverr, sort of tying this whole thing together. So Shannon Hughes is here from Udemy, all the way from San Francisco for 5 minutes to talk to you guys about that. So ask your questions fast. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a great event. It's so exciting. This is my first time in Kansas City, and I have to say it's really awesome. I'm really enjoying it. Thank you for having us here. So my name is Shannon Hughes. I head up the communications team at Udemy. And how many folks here had heard of Udemy before today? Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I've been at the company for over 45 years, so it's incredible to see people all over the country and all over the world using Udemy. But for folks who don't know Udemy, Udemy is an online site where you can go to take courses on just about anything. So there's 80,000 courses on Udemy taught by 35,000 experts. The other thing I wanted to mention is that, so Udemy is a place where experts everywhere could actually teach a course as well. So many people who are in the freelance, gig, side hustle, economy, whatever that looks like, they also teach on Udemy. So if you have expertise in a particular area, it's something to consider as a source of income as you're kind of putting together what does that portfolio look like for you. So as part of being here today, all of you get access to 25 Udemy courses, which is really incredible. So, and these are, it's over 300 hours of content and instruction for in disciplines that are very related to freelance work. So whether that's front-end web development or search engine optimization, also some things around copywriting, content marketing, some really good content from Udemy, and all of you get access for that. So the only thing that you need to do is, if you haven't already, make sure that you sign in, and then we'll be sending you an email, and you just follow that link, and you get those Udemy courses for free. So super excited to be here today, and really excited to be part of this initiative, and I hope you'll take advantage of the courses. Thank you.
Thank you.
We kind of teasing Shannon all morning. She's actually flew in here from San Francisco and is just headed straight out to catch up with her family on vacation. So she really took some time out for us, so I appreciate that. Next up is Sam Katzen, who's with Fiverr. That's my company. He's going to talk to you about what Fiverr has to offer for you, and you can feel free to just abuse this guy and pepper him with questions and really just give him our time.
What a lovely introduction. Thank you, Brent. So how many of you guys are familiar with Fiverr? That's pretty good. That's great. So Brent's been kind of talking about it a little bit today. We are the world's largest marketplace for creative and digital services. We're in 190 different countries. We're global. We have a massive community that's both digital and in the real world. It's grassroots. So let me talk a little bit about what digital means. So that means that if you're doing business with somebody on Fiverr, you don't actually meet them in person. You communicate, you get the job online, you communicate online, and you deliver the final work online, which is great. It means that somebody from Kansas City could work with somebody from Boise, Idaho, somebody from Paris, France, or somebody from, I don't know, Morocco. It's really empowering, and it allows you to cast a really wide net when you're running your business. However, that also has limitations, doesn't it? Because one of the things that we value in our professional lives is spending time with coworkers. It's sitting around the coffee machine of a water cooler, talking shop, and kind of learning things. And early on as a business, Fiverr recognized that this was sort of a blind spot, right? Digital freelancing provides a ton of opportunity, but there's also this second half that maybe a digital worker doesn't quite have access to, because it's you and your computer. And that's, again, empowering, but also a little limiting. So early on, Fiverr invested pretty substantially in setting up a grassroots organization. And Brent is actually the head of that organization. And right now, there are well over 100 teams filled with thousands of freelancers across the United States and in other parts of the world as well. And what does this grassroots organization really offer? What does it supply for? Well, there are monthly meetups, opportunities to talk shop and kind of learn from each other, or at least to commiserate from time to time, which I think a lot of folks in this room can certainly empathize with. It also allows for you to learn, whether that means learning things about the Fiverr marketplace and how it functions, or learning how to just be a better freelancer in general, or on the other side, how to be a better business owner or a better business leader. And the third thing that grassroots opportunity really provides is it's a chance to learn from outside groups or other affiliated partners that we may have, opportunities that may exist and be valuable for you. So that's kind of what Fiverr is as a marketplace, and then how it functions as both a digital and a grassroots community. I think that's a really great segue into what we're doing with the Digital Workforce Development Initiative. So what we would really like to do is to create a strong community here in Kansas City for freelancers that either work on Fiverr or just function as entrepreneurs themselves. So that means monthly meetups, as I mentioned. It means mentorship. I think that starting out as a freelancer can be challenging for a number of different reasons, but one of them is that you may not have a sounding board to bounce ideas off of and say, hey, am I doing this correctly? Does this make sense? And because there are so many Fiverr freelancers that are scattered throughout the world, specifically the United States, we have the opportunity to pair you up with someone so you can learn how to, perfect your craft, whether that's marketing yourself or how to communicate with clients on deliverables, or even how to make sure, if you're running an offline business, to make sure you don't get stiff. One of the biggest issues for freelancers is making sure they get paid. And I can talk a little bit more about some other Fiverr opportunities that connect that as well. The third thing that I'll mention around what Fiverr is doing with the Digital Workforce Development Initiative is working to get you onboarding quickly. If you do decide that, hey, Fiverr makes sense, and it's a place that I might want to try my hand and build a portfolio, or even longer term to kind of offer my services, we want to make sure that you get onboarded quickly and get up and running quickly. It's a pretty intuitive marketplace. We're proud of that. That being said, there are still things that could obviously one could benefit from having a high-touch experience on. So that's the third part of what we're doing with the Digital Workforce Development Initiative. I was just mentioning sort of the marketplace freelancing versus offline freelancing, and Caleb talked about that as well. As an organization, we recognize that something like 80% of freelancing is still done offline, right? That's referrals, that's word of mouth, and there's a lot of benefits to that. You can build a good book of business, but there are downsides to that as well. Marketplaces provide a little bit of security. We make sure you get paid, we can drive clients to you, and we back you up if something goes wrong. When you're offline, some of those things don't quite come as naturally. So one of the things that Fiverr did earlier this year, actually in January, is we acquired a software as a service platform called Anco. And Anco functions as that back end for offline freelancers. Now originally they were offering, I think, about $50 a month, which, you know, if you're running your entire business on there from contracts to invoicing, maybe that's fine and you're good with it. But we sort of saw it as a different opportunity to make freelancing easier for everyone. And so we actually made it free. So Anco is the name of the company. You can access that software. Like I said, it's from the original contract all the way through payment. And Anco helps you with all that stuff. It'll do management, time management for you, and expense tracking as well, which are all things that are a pain in the butt when you're a freelancer.
Can you spell that?
ANDCO, 2 words. Website is and.co. And as I said, I think it really is valuable when you're looking to automate processes. You're one person, you only have 24 hours in a day, so chasing down people for payments is not a great use of your time, but it's an important part of your business. And so Anco helps kind of deal with those things. Can I answer any questions about Fiverr? Or answer them? Yes.
So do you get to Anco through Fiverr?
You can get to Anco without Fiverr at all. Like I said, we acquired the business in January, and our attitude towards it is we think that freelancing in general should be something that is easier, whether that's an efficiency question or an opportunity question. And so, yes, the marketplace from Fiverr is incredibly valuable, but at the same time, we recognize that freelancers may have multiple revenue streams, and we want to make sure that we are accounting for that as well.
Are you addressing the issue of copyright infringement from the freelancers who claim the work is original and it's not?
Yes, we do. That's a super important part of our marketplace because there are bad actors out there all the time. We have a big marketplace integrity team that focuses on making sure that that sort of thing doesn't happen on Fiverr. And when it does, we address it as quickly as we can.
Is yours a bid marketplace?
No, and that's a really great question. So for a lot of freelancing marketplaces, they're basically labor marketplaces that moved online. So if somebody says, hey, I need a blog post written. Here are the specifications. What do you do it for? Now you guys can imagine that sort of environment is going to cause prices to go down, right? It's going to be determinants often applied as a race to the bottom. And that's unfortunate. We think people should be compensated for their work fairly, and one of the most important parts of Fiverr is that you set your own price. You say, hey, here's explicitly what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a blog post of this length. It's going to take me this amount of time, and I'm going to charge this much money for it. And because our marketplace is so big and broad, we think that there are multiple price points for just about everything on there. There's a professional tier on Fiverr where people can charge really high prices for the work they do. They are hand vetted. They have portfolios that have been thoroughly vetted, of course, to make sure that there's none of the issues that you pointed to before. And in so doing, it allows people to say, this is what I'm going to do the work for. I'm just not going to spend a bunch of time doing bids. I'm going to basically take my service, turn it into a product, and offer it. And that way, you don't spend a lot of time bidding out for work. When people buy your product, they buy your service, and you do that work explicitly. You don't do things on spec either. Yes?
So Fiverr is like you put your resume or your portfolio out there, and then the business comes to you, as opposed to a list of jobs that are out there that you send your information to.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a really great way to put it. When you say you put your portfolio and your business out there, yes, you absolutely do share your portfolio. What you're really doing, though, is you're saying, here is a service that I'm going to do, and I'm going to just explicitly lay that out, kind of the statement of work, all of it. And then when somebody's searching for something that covers your service, whether that's a logo or copywriting, then you're going to pop up and they can say, oh, this fits the exact bill that I want. Click buy, and just like that, you are in a client freelancer relationship, and you can get the work done.
And I would just add that you can be in multiple categories, selling multiple gigs. You can say, you know, I can write 12 things, so I'm going to be in all these different places. It's one of them happens to be graphic design, but maybe I think I have a nice voice, and I'm going to do voiceover work too. So you can offer a gig somewhere else as well. It's a massive marketplace of thousands of services.
Yeah, that's something else I'll quickly touch on is when we say it's massive, it's horizontal, which means, and sure, I'll get to you, don't worry. You can do copywriting, you could do voice acting, you could do digital marketing, you could do web development, all those things are available on Fiverr. Sir?
Okay, one is U2Mini.com.
Yeah.
How do you, are you supposed to just like bio you? I had never heard of it.
It's UDEMY.
The Academy would do.
UDEMY. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then the question that I wanted to ask you, okay, so how do you think in, I'm gonna check really, it sounds like you have a plethora of volunteer projects. How do you transfer those into
like a portfolio?
Reasonable monetization? But based on the fact that a lot of doors and opportunities were made available based on being a volunteer and not with the entanglements of structured organizations or entities. Does that make sense?
Let me play back in and then we can see if it works. How do you kind of take what your experience previously and transfer it into a skill that you're going to monetize today?
Right.
Yeah, so one of the things that's really interesting about digital freelancing in general is that you can have a portfolio on there of work that you've done. Our marketplace, visual stuff works really well. Copywriting and things like that are a little bit tougher to kind of showcase your portfolio. But whatever work you've done in the past, you can upload on the marketplace attached with whatever the services that you're going to offer. So if you have you've done volunteer work where you've been a copywriter, perhaps you've been doing graphic design work, you can upload that work and say, hey, here's what I've done in the past, here's what I'm charging for work I want to do in the future. And so the fact that it's volunteerism doesn't necessarily impact the quality or the experience. Yes?
Is there a service provided for someone who's new going into, like Fiverr or something, to figure out how to list their items and the prices that they should apply to it?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I would say about that. The first is that being in this room today, we intend to offer kind of white glove treatment in order to take that step. For somebody who's doing it independently, there's a workflow that helps you get your services listed that's pretty intuitive and can help you figure out how to, what to say, where to list certain things, and what's going to be appealing from a marketing perspective. But then additionally, as far as figuring out how to price your services, this is one of the hardest things for freelancers to do. And Kayla mentioned it before, one of the things that I would always recommend is to go on the marketplace and see what's out there. Because of the way that Fiverr's marketplace is structured, there's a real opportunity to carve out a niche for yourself. You can kind of find a place that makes sense, find services that you think are going to appeal based on what you see already in the marketplace, and then tweak them slightly to differentiate it. And then, of course, as far as pricing, I think it really depends on what the service is and seeing what other people are charging. But I would always encourage people, when they're first starting off, to do their best to develop a book of business to begin with, right? To develop a portfolio. And sometimes that involves sacrificing price at the forefront that you can later move up market. So I think there are a number of different ways to go about doing it. But one of the things that we really are excited about doing today is offering sort of that white glove treatment that we put here. In that.
Could you say a little bit about your rating system?
Yeah, sure. So the way that Fiverr works is that for freelancers who are on the marketplace, there's a 20% take rate. That's what Fiverr's taking home. And in exchange for that, there's the marketing opportunity that comes with the marketplace. There's the fact that we're going to be securing all the payments. We're going to back you up if there's disputes. Any sort of customer service issue is something we handle. So that's where that comes from. In addition to that, and so that's from the freelancer side. On the other side of that is for people who are buying services, small businesses, or even larger ones on the marketplace, there's a transaction fee that's associated with payments. So that's how it works.
Okay, I'm talking about the performance rating.
So there is what a buyer or a business looking for services will find is a 5-star rating that's based on a number of different factors, goes into a few different things that talks about communication, quality, deliverable, timeliness, things like that. And so that review system has been around for quite some time. It's obviously been tweaked as we continue to get more data and understand more the needs of both businesses and freelancers out there. Yeah, let's take one more, sir.
I use Fiverr all the time. I do video and film production and for a variety of clients and have to get voiceover work all the time. And there's some great guys out there, and I've got a bunch listed as my favorites. I was wondering if you do anything about the, been sitting there trying to think of a nice way to say it, but incompetent amateurs who are doing it, who, like you say, they think they have a nice voice. And that's a subjective thing anyway, you know. But what's not subjective is recording techniques. And sitting at your laptop in the kitchen does not give good quality recordings. And there's just a lot of guys and gals on there that are doing that don't understand production techniques for making it right. Do you do anything to kind of help those people along and either get them out of there or straighten them out? Or?
Yes, that's actually a twofold thing, right? And the first is that I'll quickly backfill on this, which is the Power's been around for 8 years. It started as a very hobbyist marketplace. You guys remember the evolution of eBay, right? eBay was founded by somebody who was looking to use a pest dispenser collector. Thought that was cool, and so eventually people started to sell other things, and then eventually had issues with quality and quality assurances there, and then ultimately they managed to work their way through it. And we are a constantly evolving marketplace. And so part of that, what you mentioned is, how do we kind of pull quality up? And the way that we've started to pull quality up is by developing a pro tier on Fiverr, which allows for people who are professionals to submit an application where 1% of all submittees are accepted to that professional tier. So that's one way that we're pulling quality up. The other is that from the bottom, if there are bad actors, there are people who are representing themselves inaccurately or perhaps providing quality that is just not good enough. We have a marketplace integrity team that's constantly working to try to sort that out. Now that goes one of two ways, right? It's, hey, this isn't really consistent with what you're offering, or this isn't quite up to snuff. How can we help you? Or alternatively, if there are people who say, oh, I'm not really interested in being helped, and that's different. That's a different course of action, and something we take pretty seriously and that we continue to work pretty hard on. Because, like I said, when you're in 190 countries, that's a lot of transactions that are going through the marketplace. In fact, today there's been 40 million transactions on Fiverr. So it's our job to make sure that the next 40 million are of good quality.
That was the thing, was how many hours it took me to sort through and find my core group of voiceover people that, thank God it had the favorites.
Yeah.
I just want to add one other piece to that because I'm a community guy, so I would be remiss if I didn't point out that the community also offers what we call leveling up workshops. And we haven't done these in Kansas City, but we do them all over the world, actually, in places where we have a strong community. And this is a place where people go and learn about a particular discipline. So it might be leveling up workshop on voiceover. And then we would get in and we would talk about techniques and microphones and really get into the nitty gritty of how to become good at this. That's another thing that we offer.
Thank you guys so much. I'll give it back to Rick Brennan.
So that's the end of it for today. I want to thank the library. I want to thank the city of Kansas City, of course, and the library here for hosting us. We want to wrap it up and be quick to get out and be mindful of their time as we sort of shut this down. But we will be around if anyone wants to stop by and say hello, ask another question, grab a business card or whatever from Sam, myself, or Shannon, or Caleb. We'll be here for a few more minutes. But thank you all for coming. Have a great day. I hope to see you all again.
Thank you.